all these people love heavy metal, fucking whammy bars, like as much as me, sit right here, like I'm and beer and weed, like y'all like all that shit, I'll be right there.
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time in the channel, hit subscribe right now.
First of all, thank you for being on the show. Thank you. How are you doing, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Coming at you live from Washington, D.C.
There you go.
Got the coffee and whiskey going right now.
Good. Keep you warm. Keep you warm inside. We might come back to, why the time is right for more Darkest Hour right now in this year, but we'll see. First of all, Perpetual Terminals coming out. Interesting name. I have to ask, this is 30 years of the band. Like, you are officially classic rock now. Are you a nostalgic person? Like, do you milestones like that? Do they make you like stop and look back and think about legacy and stuff like that?
Well, one thing we've learned is that nostalgia, man, it's a double-edged sword.
Right.
It'll cut you both ways. You champion the past long enough, and then you're stuck in it. You know what I mean? And so I think where we're at is kind of like we're aware,
right?
Because we have to be acutely aware of the fact that we have survived a lot of crazy things as a group, as artists, as people, blah blah blah. And so there's a certain level of respect you have for everybody else who's in the band. You've seen them suffer through a lot too,
right?
So it's like it's sort of some of the worst moments make the best stories, build unity in some stupid way. So I think that you can't overlook the championing of surviving that long. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you have to be really focused on living right now, because the thing is, as an artist, it's like you don't just want to be stuck with being like, 30 years ago we played our first show. You want to be more like, hey, we have this new album called Perpetual Terminal. You should check it out, because it's like how we feel right now kind of thing. So I think it's like next year will be 30th year, but we'll also be still supporting this record. So I think it's going to be a little marriage of both. It's not going to just be like, the 30th thing everywhere. I think that big nostalgia kind of celebration might be reserved for when our first full length turns 30. Now that is pretty sick, because I'm really excited and proud of that record. But right now we're sort of just like living over here, and caring about whether we're 30 sort of is eclipsed by trying to get people to check out what we just spent a long time creating.
This is a revolution. You get what you give it, but is it ever enough?
I know from previous interviews that a band that was so important for you, wanting to learn how to play guitar, was Pantera. So just as a quick side question, the whole, reunion shows that we've seen, like, what was that like for you? Like, did you go see the Pantera reunion show at all, or how do you feel about that?
I have not seen the Pantera reunion extravaganza, just because I've been on tour the whole time. Literally, like, just never crossed paths. I did have, the distinct pleasure of seeing Pantera when Pantera existed. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you this, having seen millions of bands since then and everything, there's no band ever like the band that was the four of those motherfuckers when they're up there. Now, I also appreciate, like, celebrating Pantera, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to hate on Phil and Rex and Charlie and Zach for going out there and, like, doing a really good job of, like, getting people excited. But, in some weird way, like, I don't feel as drawn to figure out how to fly to see it or something, because I just think it seems like they're doing it a lot. I'll see it at some point. I've seen Zach Wild do Black Sabbath, and he kills it.
Right.
Dude, I love Zach Sabbath. I don't really feel the exact same nostalgic pull to what's happening, mainly because, I'm over here now, kind of thing. Like I'm a changed as a listener in the same way people who might have like loved our first full length are changed as a listener. But that's not to say that you won't see me at the bar at one of those shows if I'm near, if it works out, because to me that's where all my people are. All these people love heavy metal, fucking whammy bars, like as much as me. Sit right here, like I'm and beer and weed, like y'all like all that shit. I'll be right there. But I also I'm in a different place too from when I liked Pantera when I was a kid. So everything feels different.
Yeah. All right. Well, everything feels different. We're gonna use that as a forced segue into the album. Like there's a lot of different things, but also a lot of returning things in a way. When listen to the album is gonna come out, and some of the singles that have obviously been released as well, it packs a punch. There's a lot of energy in there. And you mentioned like, I'm so proud of the very early albums that we did, and maybe that's just me as a fan, projecting my feelings onto the art, but there do seem to be some callbacks to those earlier days with this new album. Do you feel that as well, or am I completely off here?
I mean, well, like if when we were creating the record, did we absolutely have the intent to keep the identity of the band intact? Yes. You know what I mean? Did we intend to like go, make a song like that old thing? You know what I mean? No. And I think part of it is that when we made Godless Prophets, our last record, it came out, we toured on it, we loved it, we were all about it. A bunch of people are like, oh yeah, that's a Darkest Hour record. But then like years later, I'm reading about it and everybody's like, masterpiece this, blah, 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 that. And you're like, oh, well, so you guys got it now? Like, okay. And there's no pressure there. It's more validating, like, okay, that's what we thought. So I think here with this, it's like when people say things like what you said about this old sound in there or whatever, I think to us, that's just validating that it's like, yes, we, feel that the original identity of the band is like shining through in those places. Because there's plenty of things we haven't tried on this album, even for a 10th record. So to hear that there's those elements too, I mean, I'm excited as a person who's been here the whole time in the band, because for me, I want there to be a through line creatively to all the records. So I like to hear that.
Now, when you say that, like for me as a person who's been there the entire time, you and John have been there the entire time, and kind of like that backbone of the band, if you will. And sure, I think you said earlier in this conversation, like we've seen a lot of things, and we've gone through a lot of things. What's kept that partnership special?
Well, I mean, you can't also leave out Aaron, our bass player, who I've known since high school, who I met probably before I knew John. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Who's been along the story in some parallel universe for a while before we connected. Right. And Travis, who the hell knows where was at when we started this band, but when he showed up in the timeline, the whole direction of the band's future shifted. You know what I mean? So, and I must throw in our longtime tour manager, lighting guy, Tito Pacone, who's been with the band for like 2 decades. He's always around, you know what I mean? And he's toured with shitload of bands too when he's not on tour with us. So the amount of infinite wisdom that comes from the amount of suffering that all those collective people have been through, you know what I mean? Plus Nico, who's just joined the band a few years ago, but also played in Suicidal Tendencies, Fallujah, The Faithless. He's been around sleeping in Walmart parking lots, in vans, and been on the top of arena, bills and chilling out in tour buses. He's been through it all too, So I think that just like there's a shared respect for the amount of time and energy and misery that everybody's done there. And I think that like that, plus the fact that everybody who it just mentioned really likes us. Like they want to be here. They like the culture of heavy metal. They like shows. They like a concert. what that feels like from beginning to end, when you get there, when you leave, you know what I mean? And so we all have a shared vision of like what it feels like to go to a heavy metal concert,
Right.
what it should feel like when you walk away. And the same thing goes for a record, and the same thing goes for the culture of the band inside. So I think, our team has expanded over the past few years, because now we have 5 crew members almost always, and now it's a gang of 10. But I
Right.
think it really does a good job of kind of really bringing everybody together in a shared sense of like past misery, but future kind of, optimism to be able to continue to just be able to do what we all love to do, which is like rock these heavy metal concerts,
Yeah. In light of all that misery that you mentioned, or that shared misery, having
I
that
mean, there's also shared success, and you can't leave
sure.
that out.
For
You know what I
sure,
mean?
for
It's
sure.
not as much fun to talk about, but it also is important, because once you get a little taste of that, little taste of the other thing, then you just get a taste of the whole game.
Yeah.
And some people like it both. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Pain and pleasure.
The this very grounded approach and optimistic view, if you will, is that something that you as a person has always had? Or if I had this conversation with you 25 years ago, would you did you have to mature to get that, vision on life, or do you feel you always had that?
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I will throw some shit across the room and break out like everybody else. I
Right.
am passionate, but luckily the people that have been around this band, everybody's been around for so long. We all know each other, so we know kind of where those lines of acceptable behavior are now. But as far as the optimism, I think we've always, even as a team, had this kind of like hunger to be like, we love to travel, we love to meet people, we love to eat new food, we like to go on tours, do shit like that. That's always existed.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll sell my own merch. I'll go stand out there and talk to people in line sometimes, you know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to, because I just want to fucking hide. And sometimes I just want to hang out with people. But I
Right.
mean, in general, we all like the experience, I guess. And so I think that again ties into like why we feel optimistic. It's like
Right.
there's no other place we'd rather be. You know what I mean? Even though we have families and stuff at home, this is like what we feel like we're meant to do, kind of,
Yeah.
And we feel privileged to be able to do it. So you have that optimism, but there's a lot of other shit that comes in and balances it out, because there's a lot of anger, rage, past mistakes, reflection, all that other shit tied up in all the lyrics and the mood and the vibe of the record too, so it's like you sort of have to celebrate more the balance of both. So while it does present as optimism here on this polite Zoom call, once you get into the fucking war that's like being in a band for a living, there's definitely strikes and gutters.
You've always seemed to be very good at balancing the macro themes that you guys talk about, and whether it, societal commentary, if you will, but balancing that out with very introspective songs and lyrics as well, and not, oh, here's one song that goes about the world's going apart, and there's another song about, oh, I'm, whatever, these are my demons. But they were within each song, you have these two levels kind of always at play. Is that something that is that just part of the band identity? You said oh, when we start, writing songs, what have you. Is that like a standard that you want all your work to kind of live up to? That there have to be multiple layers, a more bigger picture, and a very personal touch to every song?
Well, I mean, on the Godless Prophets record, the last one we did was sort of a departure in a way from that sense, because John wrote it more as a third person, not as himself, as a character or something kind of. And I don't mind that, because I think when you get to a point where you've like expressed a lot of really crazy things about your life, you start to be like, man, get off me. Like, I don't want,
Right.
why do I gotta share all this fucked up shit? Can't I just say like some fucking awesome shit that goes right here and that has some badass words? And, and so at first, I think the main thing to zoom out is that like, from a creative sense, like I'm very involved with like the music, and so is John. And I also like to get in there and fuck around with the lyrics and fuck around with the vocal patterns. And I'm not saying that he isn't stamp off on everything because he has to live it, just like I have to stamp off on all the guitar shit. But there is a give and take, and I think that allows for there to be a space where there is this interpretationable meaning of things, because you have two people pushing and pulling to try to, at least two people, but you have other people in the band too, but at least two people really dug in on it. And I will say for sure on this record, I as a voice in there, not the main voice, but a part of that voice and a person that is respected for the amount of time and energy I put into this band, I was like, this has to be about something. You have to, after 7 fucking years, you don't have anything to say at this point, then Godless Prophets was perfect. I thought it was perfect anyway. Why make another record? It wasn't until we realized that there was like something universal that John had to say that did fit into everything that felt right about encapsulating in songs like this, that we were able to, again, pull that through line between all the songs to make a record. And yes, that is important, I think, to the identity of the band, because I think what makes this band any different from any other band is that, this is what we do.
Right.
You know what I mean? These are the things that we do. Like, plus we have thrash beats, we have breakdowns, we have some melodic shit, we have some heavy shit, blah, 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 blah. All that stuff together, that's what Darkest Hour is. And I think part of it is, that the lyrics mean something, you know what I mean? And I think that comes from a team of people caring about what lyrics mean being in the band.
You are in Washington, D.C. We have started 2024. The time is right to have more Darkest Hour in our lives, I'm usually in Canada looking, not figuratively down onto the United States, but let's just say from north to south. This is going to be the most intense, if not most fucked up year in American politics, and it's gonna be a crazy ride. So we need some Darkest Hour right now.
Well, I think the thing is that everybody has their own personal survival story. You know what I mean? And this community that we live in, this country that we live in, has one too. And I think the thing is that I really love the people that live around here, my community, the people that are in Washington, D.C. We get a bad rap because motherfuckers be talking about the swamp and shit. You know what I mean? But I live all up around it, in it, with all the people around here. And it's really, it's a great community. And so while I do believe that, national, politics in America, it's fucking crazy right now. I mean, the world politics is crazy. It moves so fast, and we used to really be able to react to it and really be able to let you know what we think about everything, really fast. But now things are moving so fast. Like fucking, that I think that we've chosen to be like, what, our place is to put our ideas in songs right now, because that's where they really can leech a hold of your brain, maybe make you think something. I mean, I'm not quite sure with an internet story, about my opinions about the 2024 political, election. I mean, obviously I fucking don't like Trump, you know what I mean? And if you really need to know, like, I think Biden's old as shit, and I can't believe these are the only two fucking options. So I think that what we've said in the past is sort of like, this is an interesting quote I've heard too. Like, in the past, we definitely shouted out loud as we could what we think, and I don't think there's anything hidden about that, even in the messages on the new record. Right. But I also think that now that we are a little older, we've learned that the internet is a lot like walking into a fucking mall and just screaming a bunch of fucking crazy ideas. Like, you would never really do that. Just going out there and doing that all the time on all the social media isn't really do anything either. So I think we've chosen to take a lot of time to listen. You know what I mean? We have friends and trusted places where we go for actual, this thing called information. And we have been listening to, of course, the world politics. And you know, any time I'm from DC, so I'm not afraid to talk about it. But I also know what it starts to do to people outside of, especially our little bubble here. It just sound like, you know what I mean? So I just like just bring it back to like we're in a position where we're artists. We have a vehicle to say a lot of stuff, and we do. And on a lot of things, we choose to just wait and listen. Yeah. You know what I mean? So what's happening in America right now? It's like, of course, it's going to end up in a song. But also, we have a lot that we've said in this record that pertains to people's lives as they're living through this insane nightmare, the same way everyone is. You know what I mean? So regardless of whether you know, are a crazy lefty, hippy dippy punk, skater punk, thrash, metalcore dude, you know what I mean, or not, you can like kind of like relate to the ideas inside this record because they are part of a shared experience. Yeah. Especially, you know, Americans, but greater than that. You know what I mean? Because some of us don't even live in America all the time. So it's like we don't all just have a perspective that's just from here, even though the band's from DC.
You mentioned the term shared experience in your answer, and earlier you're talking about like, you know, it's not just me and John, there's multiple people and we all have our families. So if I put those two together, shared experiences and family, I know in an interview 6 years ago you shared that apart from your brother, nobody in your family has ever seen your band play. 6 years later, has that changed at all?
No, I mean, like, my sister might have seen us play when she was in college this one time in South Carolina. I feel like she was there. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think she saw Darkest Hour. But, and you know what? Her husband, he actually came to a show too. Okay. So I think there have been a few breakthroughs. But man, guess what? They all had a shitload of kids. Okay. And now there's a ton of them running around that as soon as a couple of them get that music bug, you're going to be seeing them out at the shows. And honestly, you know, while my mother, you know, was not ever supportive of my career of music really, or you know, definitely hated heavy metal. Right. You know what I mean? I grew up in the classic heavy metal story like you see in, you know, those movies where the kids have the parents who are all into the Bible freaking out about stuff. Right. But my brother and sister were always really supportive of my vision to go rock the world. And so I have had, you know, that on my side. Awesome. And John's family, who's been around this band the entire time, they are super supportive. And I will shout out my wife, who has been around this band for over 2 decades too, is ultra supportive. And that has gone a long way too. So while I didn't have the support of my immediate family, you know, when this band started, I've definitely had the support of my friends and my family and everything all along the way. It definitely wouldn't be possible without that, for sure. And the greater DC hardcore punk heavy metal community that exists here, all the other bands that are around here, all the other musicians around here, like, you know what I mean? It's all like, no, you know, no man's an island type vibe.
There you go. There you go. I first saw you guys play at the 2012 Hellfest festival in France. You guys were playing one of the big tents there. And I remember seeing you guys for the first time, and I went home with like all your albums that you had released since then, because the show really blew me away. And since then, I know what of an energetic show you guys bring. So to wrap us up, got a new album coming out. There's a lot going on this year, but also for the band. As fans worldwide, what can we keep our eyes open for? What can we keep our fingers crossed for?
Well, we're coming to the streets, okay, with these songs, because we have a mega American and, you know, Eastern Canada. Canada's a big place. Sorry, we're not going to both countries on the tour, but we got a bunch of America, a bunch of the east side of Canada, and we'll be back to get a bunch more in America. And the west side of Canada, we got plans to tour in the US and Canada again in June already, July. I can't tell you when or where. Also Europe, We're coming in August, and then we're coming back at the end of the year. We just can't announce it all yet. I'm saying that one thing you can expect is that we are hitting the streets with this record and this band because we love to play live. That's the entire reason why we created this record, and kind of the reason why we've been doing the band the entire time. You know, never really stopped, even though there was a big break between albums. You know, we just love to play live, and so that's what you can expect. We're coming.
Awesome.
You should come out. You know.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Mike, I promised you I would be respectful of your time, and I know you've got a crazy schedule because everybody wants to talk to you guys because of the buzz around this new album.
Can't wait.
Which is great. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I'll let you go back to your whiskey before the next interview.
Oh, shit. I better do a shot because I got another one coming up. All right.
There you go.
Hey,
Save that
thanks
voice.
for having me on. Cheers, man. Party
Cheers.
on.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.